Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarishir Naradastatha Asito Devalo Vyasah Swayam Chaiva Bravishime Sarvameta Tritam Manye Yanmam Padasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdevana Dhanavaha Swaymevatmanatmanam Vettatvam Purushottama Bhuta Bhavana Bhuteshaha Devadeva Jagatpate Bhaktumarkasya Aseshena Divyakhyatma Vibhutayaha Yabhihi Vibhutibir Lokan Imam Swam Yapyatishtasi Katam Vidyam Aham Yogim Swam Sada Parikinchayan Keshu Keshu Cha Bhaveshu Chintyosi Bhagavanmaya Bhaktumarkasya Aseshena Divyakhyatma Vibhutayaha Yabhir Vibhutibir Lokan Imam Swam Yapyatishtasi Katam Vidyam Aham Yogim Swam Sada Parichintayan Keshu Keshu Cha Bhaveshu Chintyosi Bhagavanmaya Vistaren Atmano Yogam Vibhutim Cha Janardhana Bhuyaha Kathayat Triptirhi Shrinvato Nasti Me Amritam Shrinvataha Nasti Me Amritam. Amritam. What a beautiful word. The word itself is nectarine. It's indeed wonderful to have a good gathering once again, to be together, to relish Krishna Katha. Therefore, we begin with the word Amrita. Shrinvataha Nasti Me Amritam, Arjuna says. Amrita has two meanings. Amrita means immortality. Mrita is mortality. Amrita, immortality. Amrita also means nectar. The beauty is these two meanings are also related. And they are related in two ways. Firstly, Amrita, which is immortality, and nectar are related beautifully because immortality is nectarine. Immortality is nectarine. And why it is nectarine? Because of the absence of poison-like afflictions of samsara. The absence of poison-like afflictions, bodily afflictions, mental afflictions, disease, decay, death. Because of the absence of these miseries, the poison-like miseries, immortality is Amrita. More important than the absence of these things is the presence. Is the presence of loving service to Krishna. That is what makes immortality nectarine. Secondly, nectar is supposed to grant immortality. The purpose of nectar is to lead us to immortality. Therefore, nectar has to be understood very carefully and properly. Nectar, therefore, cannot be a material drink to be consumed. If nectar has to grant immortality, it cannot be a material drink that can be consumed. It has to be a spiritual truth that has to be realized. And in our journey to realize the spiritual truth, we are always presented with a very difficult challenge to manage. And what is this challenge that we have to manage on a day-to-day basis? Managing the competition between two sides, between two dimensions of our living. The material side, the spiritual side. There is a competition always. We all have two sides, two dimensions to our existence, to our lives. There is a spiritual dimension and there is a material dimension. And the challenge in our journey to realize the spiritual truth is to manage this competition. Our material side is always competing with our spiritual side for attention. And in our day-to-day life and living, it may seem as though these two sides are compartmentalized and are separate. It looks as though the material side of our life is a separate compartment, has its own existence. And the spiritual side is in a different compartment. And often we struggle to balance this or that. We have limited time, limited energies. Do I devote my time to the spiritual side, or do I devote my time to my material side? Both seem to be wanting our attention, and we are constantly struggling to balance these two sides. The beauty of Gita, especially the middle exit of the Gita, is that Krishna presents an integrated vision. He presents an integrated vision, clearly explaining to us that these two are not compartmentalized. They need not be in competition, they are rather complementary to each other. Our material side need not be competing with our spiritual side. Rather, our material side, the material dimension can actually complement when we understand the integrated view of reality. Because both spirit and matter originate from Krishna. Both belong to him. Both are his properties. So therefore, matter can also be spiritualized. When we are infused with bhakti, the moment Krishna starts talking about bhakti right in the 7th chapter, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th chapters of the Gita, we see how bhakti can actually consecrate everything that we do. By staying engaged in the world of matter, by dealing with matter, Krishna teaches how to spiritualize our material engagements. Thereby, there is no struggle to balance these seemingly competing sides. Rather, they complement each other. After all, this very body is a vehicle for us to travel towards Krishna. Thus, we see right from the 7th chapter onwards, Krishna explaining the lofty principle of bhakti. Krishna presents Swayathatmyam, Swamahatmyam. In 7th chapter, Swayathatmyam, his nature. He introduces his nature, the reality. Then in the 8th and 9th chapters, he talks about his glory, Swamahatmyam. And in the 9th chapter, Krishna talks about the glory of bhakti. By knowing bhakti marga, we also get to know how instead of seeking purpose in the pursuit of pleasure, which is meaningless, we must seek pleasure in the pursuit of purpose. Get this very clearly. Instead of seeking purpose in the pursuit of pleasure, this is what we end up doing in our worldly life, trying to seek some meaning, some purpose in pursuit of pleasure, which is a futile exercise, because there is no purpose, there is no meaning when we seek pleasure. But when we seek purpose, in pursuit of purpose, automatically happiness becomes a byproduct. So this is why bhakti, Krishna says, is Raja Vidya. Raja Guhyam. It is the highest wisdom. It is revealed. It has to be revealed to us. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram. Uttamam Pavitram. It destroys all impurities. Pratyakshyavagamam. Bhakti is the only way to experience Bhagavan. Susukham is so joyful. The process is so very delightful, delectable. Susukham kartum avyayam. Bhakti is the means to mukti, and the state of mukti is qualified by bhakti. Therefore, it is avyayam. And then Krishna highlights the importance of constant remembrance of Bhagavan. Now, when Krishna summarizes the very essence of bhakti and his relationship with this world, Arjuna immediately has a very important question. Arjuna's 11th question, which comes in the 10th chapter of the Gita, is so very relevant. Every question of his is very relevant, but this question is something which is very, very practical. If we look at Arjuna's questions, now we have been relishing Arjuna's questions and looking at Gita from Arjuna's perspective. Now, if you see the kind of questions Arjuna has been asking, they fall into different categories. Questions seeking clarity, seeking clarification. Questions making declarations. Right from 12th shloka of 10th chapter, Param Brahma, Parandhava, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, declarations of Arjuna based on his understanding. Words which are then making a resolve. Towards the end of the 18th chapter, we see Arjuna making a resolve. Then Arjuna also asks questions for practical tips for how to apply Krishna's teachings. So 11th question is where Arjuna is going to ask Krishna how to apply some of his teachings. He asks for some practical tips, very relevant for all of us. Katham vidyam aham yogim swam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. A question where Arjuna, because Krishna constantly keeps prescribing constant remembrance. So in response to that, Arjuna asked this question. How do I remember you constantly? Very easy for you to prescribe. Hey Krishna, your prescription you can easily give. But if you want me to follow your prescription, I need some tips. How can I constantly remember you? Now we need to see what is the context of this question. Before this question, 11th question of Arjuna, this question is preceded by Arjuna's profound declaration. From 12th shloka onwards, we see Arjuna summarizing his understanding of Krishna's teachings. Those 5 shlokas are so very profound and are very relevant to us. Why? When we chant them, it also becomes a prayer. Because it is Arjuna who is making the declaration. Param Brahma Parandhava Pavitram Paramam Bhava Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhu. Arjuna has been listening to Krishna's teachings, starting from 7th chapter, 7th, 8th, 9th chapters. Krishna has been revealing his true nature, revealing his glories, Swayathatmyam, Swamahatmyam. Now, Arjuna is summarizing his understanding. So again, we get to see how Arjuna is so methodical. And it is very important for a student to also summarize his understanding so that the teacher would also know that the message is actually sinking. Now, Arjuna here is making very important declarations. So if we look at Arjuna's declarations, we get a complete summary of what Krishna has taught right from 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters. Param Brahma, Parandhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. Hey Param Brahma. He's looking at Krishna and addressing him. Hey Param Brahma. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti tad vijijñāsasva tad brahmeti. Who is that Brahman? You are that Parabrahman standing right in front of me. Realization is dawned upon Arjuna. Krishna is none other than that Parabrahman from whom everything originates, by whom everything is sustained, into whom everything departs and attains eventually. You are that Param Brahma. Hey Param Brahma, hey Parandhama. Parandhama, Dhamma here stands for light. You are the light of all lights. I know of light which only illumines, but you not only illumine, but you also bring light-heartedness. This is unique. This is one light which not only illumines, it brings light-heartedness. This light, this Parandhama, illumines, and with that illumination enables us to discriminate, to discern, and find our way through all our adversities. And this light of all lights also brings light-heartedness, gives us the courage to stay on course amidst all adversities. Stay on course to attain Krishna. Hey Parandhama, you are that Parabrahman. The Vedas and the Upanishads glorify that Parabrahman. You are that Parabrahman standing right in front of me. You are that Parandhama, Pavitram. You are the one the only one who can annihilate, destroy all my sins. We have faithfully, we have accumulated karma which cannot be exhausted. Sanchita karma cannot be exhausted. We have taken innumerable lives and still we carry a ton load of Sanchita karma. The only way that Sanchita karma can be completely destroyed is Krishna's grace. Therefore, he is Pavitram. He Param Brahma Parandhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavat. Purusham Shashvatam Divyam. Purusham Shashvatam Divyam. He Divya Purusha Shashvatam. The eternal divine Purusha, divine Divyam also stands for, there can two ways to understand. He is Divya Purusha. He is the Purushottama whose abode is Divyam, which is Vaikuntha. Hey Purushottama. You are not only Parabrahman, the supreme being, you are also the Purushottama, the supreme person who has a beautiful form. Param Brahma Parandhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam. Krishna has at length explained to Arjuna so far about how he is the cause of all causes. Adi Devam. Divi Kridayam Dhatu. Which means he is Adi Devam. He is Devam because for him, creation is a sport. Sustenance is a sport. Destruction is a sport. Adi Devam. Adi Devam is the cause of all causes. Karanasya karyasya karanancha karanam. Karyasya karyasyapicha yat karyam prasidatu sanoharihi. Karyakaryasya yat karyam tat karyasyapi yasvayam tat karyakarya bhuto me yastatascha pranatasvatam. Brahma Stuti in Vishnu Purana. Beautiful. He says, Brahma looks at Narayana. Karyasya karanasya karanapi karyam. You are the cause of all causes. You are all the effects of all effects. And he says, you are the effect of the effect of the effect of the effect of the effect. 6 effects, he says. You are the cause of the cause of the cause of the cause of the cause. 6 causes. Essentially, saying everything originates from you. from Mula Prakriti to Mahan, Mahan to Ahankara, Ahankara to Tanmatras, Tanmatras to Panchabhutas, Panchabhutas to Brahmanda. Effect of the 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 effect, or cause of the cause of the cause of the cause of the cause. Hey Adi Devam, you are the cause of all causes, you are the effects of all effects. Ajam, you are unborn. Adi Devam, Ajam, Vibhum, you are the Vibhu. You are the one who pervades everything. Why you pervade? You pervade in order to rule, in order to control. Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarishil Narada Sata Asito Devalopyasaka Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. Now Arjuna here demonstrates, expresses his faith now in what Krishna has so far said. Faith, Shraddha, we have discussed at length. It is possibly the most important asset in our spiritual travel. Now, we all want to have some assets in our journey of life. If at all we need one asset, which is most important, it is that asset called Shraddha, faith. This faith is nourished through revelation by Krishna. When Krishna reveals, when we look at the Shastra, this faith is nourished. This faith is nourished through revelation. And this faith is also nourished by reiteration. Bhagavan reveals, but his revelation also has to be reiterated. That's why we have rishis, sages, saints, masters, acharyas, who reiterate what Bhagavan said. Only when they reiterate, our faith is further strengthened. Krishna alone says it looks like nobody wants to listen. We need acharyas who further reiterate Krishna's message for our faith to be strengthened. And this faith is further strengthened through our own personal realization, through our own personal experiences, through our own day-to-day experiences and our realization. This faith is further strengthened and nourished. So here, Arjuna is expressing Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarishil Narada Tatha. All, hey Krishna, whatever you have explained so far about your own nature, about your glories, the great sages like Narada, Asita, Devala, all these sages have also explained the same. And you yourself have categorically declared the same. All these sages have talked about you in the same manner. Param Brahma, Param Dhama. You are the Param Brahma, you are the Param Dhama, you are Pavitram, you are Purushottama. Vyasa, Asita, Devala, Asita and Devala are disciples of Vyasa. Earlier, we see in Mahabharata that these sages have shared profound wisdom with the Pandavas, talking about the glories of Krishna. So now Arjuna is saying, whatever they have said before, it's the same what you have been teaching me. It is said that Vyasa, when he wrote Mahabharata, the original Mahabharata consisted of 60 lakh verses, not 1 lakh. Out of this 30 lakh verses, Vyasa directed Narada to narrate to the Devas. 15 lakh verses, Vyasa directed Asita and Devala, son and father duo. Asita is the son, Devala is the father, to be narrated to the Pitrus. 14 lakh verses, Vyasa assigned Shukha to narrate to Gandharvas. 1 lakh Narada was assigned to Vaishampayana to narrate to Janamejaya. Now Arjuna here is looking at Krishna. Hey Krishna, whatever you have taught me so far, all the great, not only the Shastras teach the same, all the great sages also have said the same. Swayameva Bhavishime. Sito devano vyasara swayameva bravishime. Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. Sarvameta dhritam manye. Very important statement Arjuna is making. Hey Krishna, sarvam etad ritam. Truth. Ritam is truth. Vadasi. Hey Krishna, whatever you have taught so far, I accept it totally as the truth. Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. Nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devana danavaha. Hey Krishna, neither the Danavas nor the Devas can know you, can understand you fully. Who can know you fully? Who can understand you fully? Now, very interesting declaration of Arjuna. A lot of messages in this shloka. Now, Arjuna, we see here in the Gita that not only Krishna teaches us, Arjuna also teaches us. This shloka is so very important. The way Arjuna makes this declaration, there are several learnings for us as seekers. Sarvam etad ritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. He declares, I totally accept as truth whatever you have taught me. The second statement he makes, Nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devana danavaha. No one can understand you, not even the Devas and Danavas fully. There are two statements Arjuna is making. One statement, I accept whatever you said as truth. And second, he also says that no one can understand you fully. So what we can learn from this? We can learn from this one important message. It is not important to know Krishna fully right at the beginning. It is also not possible to know and understand him fully right at the beginning. To understand the Shastra, we are all very, very impatient when it comes to understanding Shastras. For everything else in life, we can wait. But when it comes to understanding the messages of the Shastras, when it comes to understanding Bhagavan, we want immediate answers. We are very impatient. Here, Arjuna is very clear. He's very clearly saying, it is not possible and it is also not relevant. It's not required. First of all, we need to suspend our judgments. In the process of understanding, we have to suspend our judgments for some time. But that's what the first thing we do. We start judging right from day one. We take the Gita day one and we start judging. It's not practical. Is it really relevant today? Maybe relevant 5,000 years back, somebody taught somebody. How is it relevant to me today? Is the jet age of technology. How is it relevant to me? It's not practical. It is not useful. Sometimes we also judge. This is not logical. Not logical. Shastras are not logical. It's okay. Mythology, good stories, pastime, good for bedtime stories, but not logical, not scientific. As though we have mastered sciences. So we'll say this is not. So Arjuna is very clear. He says, it is not necessary to understand him right from day one fully. You have to suspend judgment. It is important to start by accepting. And the process of questioning to understanding is a journey. Questioning is important. We have seen Arjuna questioning Krishna continuously. Questioning is very important. Questioning with earnestness, faith, sincerity is very important. The process of questioning to understanding is a journey which is based on, there are several ingredients to it. Faith is an ingredient. Logic, of course, is an ingredient. Love is also an ingredient. Contemplation is an ingredient. Reflection is an ingredient. Application is also a very important ingredient. If we don't apply and experience, we cannot assimilate. So therefore, Swayam, here Arjuna is very clearly Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdevana Danava. It is not possible. Now, there is a paradox here. On the one hand is the statement that, hey Krishna, one cannot know you fully. On the other hand, hey Krishna, I desire to know you fully. There's a paradox here. The paradox of not being able to know him fully and desiring to know him more and more and more. Now, this paradox highlights one very important aspect of spiritual knowledge. What is an important aspect? Knowing Krishna is not an intellectual conquest. We cannot go on this journey of knowing him as an intellectual conquest. Knowing him is a process of devotional attraction. Also, the journey cannot start off by saying, let me first understand. Then I will come. No, I will start loving Krishna. I will start worshipping him after I understand. Many people take this so-called intellectual view. We are very rational people. We will intellectually analyze. And if are convinced, then possibly we'll follow. It is like saying, let me give an analogy. When we fall sick and when a medical treatment is prescribed to us, we will not say, let me study and understand the whole medical process, the cause and the effect. And then once with the complete understanding, I will then undergo the medical treatment. If we survive, then possibly we can undergo. Similarly, for spiritual healing, the healing of our heart and our mind. So in the case of the medical treatment, medical healing, as long as the prescription is coming from a medical authority, we immediately accept. We won't even know anything about, zero understanding of the subject. But if a medical authority prescribes, we immediately go through the process of medical treatment. And maybe we may ask, nowadays with Google being available, as long as it makes some sense to us. We do our own little bit of research as though each of us are double MBBS. And then with some research, it makes a little bit of a sense, we go through. In the case of spiritual healing as well, we should apply the same yardstick. Why should we wait? I will go through this process only after complete understanding. Obviously, the prescription is coming from the highest of all authorities. So why should we doubt the authority first, number one? Number two, does it make a little sense? Not total sense, little sense. So the message of the Gita resonates with our core longing, with our deepest longing. If we look at our deepest longing is to be loved and to love and to live forever. To be eternal, to eternally love is our deepest longing. Now, the message of the Gita resonates with this longing. So, therefore, there is something to that message. So, a little bit of sense it makes. So, Arjuna is very clear. Why should we wait? If we keep waiting, we will keep waiting for eternity. Some more lifetimes, maybe. So, instead of waiting to completely understand, one should accept and go through the process of healing the heart and healing the mind, and over a period of time, obviously, the understanding will automatically come. Sarvameta dhritam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdevana Danavaha. Swayameva Atmanatmanam Vetatvam Purushottama. Hey Krishna, hey Purushottama, you alone can know yourself through your own potency. Nobody else can know you. Arjuna, but here it is not admission of defeat. It is the declaration of Krishna's glory. Krishna's infinitude does not mean his unknowability. Very important to understand this. His infinitude only means that his glories cannot be exhausted. That is the way we need to understand. His glories cannot be exhausted. Swayamevatmanatmanam vetatvam purushottama. He Devadeva, he Devesha, Devadeva Devesha. He says, you are the Devadeva. You are the Devesha. You alone know yourself through your own potency. Nobody else can know you. Therefore, Arjuna says, Vaktum arhasya seshena divyāhyātmā vibhūtayaha. Vaktum arhasi aseshena. I have one request to you, hey Krishna. Only you alone know yourself fully. So in order for me to know you a little bit, Vaktum arhasi aseshena. You have to explain to me, instruct me. Aseshena divyāhyātmā vibhūtayaha. The word vibhuti, after which the 10th chapter is named, it's a very profound word. Yābihi vibhūtibhir lokān imāṃ svāṃ vyāpya tishtasi. Yābihi vibhūtihi, by which vibhuti is imāṃ lokān vyāpya tishtasi. You stand pervaded throughout this entire universe. Imam Stvam, Imam Lokan, Vyapya Tishtasi. I would like to know, I would like you, hey Krishna, to instruct, teach me, explain to me, Aseshena, your vibhutis. What is vibhuti? We will see. That brings Arjuna to the 11th question. In the process of making these declarations, which summarizes his understanding of 7th, 8th, 9th chapters, Arjuna summarizes and declares, and then he puts forward his question, his 11th question. Hey Krishna, Katam vidyam aham yogim stvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. Katam vidyam aham yogim. Aham yogim. I, who have embarked on the path of Bhakti Yoga as prescribed by you, hey Krishna. Katam vidyam aham yogim tvam. Tvam. Katam vidyam tvam. How do I know you? Katam vidyam aham yogim tvam sada parichintayan. How do I know you, hey Krishna? How do I constantly remember you as you prescribe? You prescribe to me that constant remembrance is fundamental for spiritual growth. Constant remembrance is a prerequisite to strengthen bhakti. Constant remembrance is prerequisite to attain you. If that is your prescription, now my question is, how can I constantly remember you? Tvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi. Chintyosi keshu keshu cha bhaveshu. On what all objects that I can meditate, knowing you as the inner controller of those objects. Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. This is a very, very important question, because this is a question that all of us also have. Whenever we look at the prescription of Shastras, constantly remember Krishna. Now Arjuna is asking Krishna, hey Krishna, when I perform devotional activities to you, when I perform a puja, or when I chant, or when I sing your glories, yes, it is possible to remember you. There also, sometimes it is possible to remember you. We may be doing puja to him, we may be doing Krishna dhyana, we may be doing dhyana on something else at the same time. So there also sometimes it is possible. By force, when we sit and do a puja, yes, sometimes it is possible. But whenever I do devotional activities, it is possible. But then, once I come out of altar, once I go out, and I engage with this world, How is it possible to constantly remember you? You say constant remembrance. Now I have 24 hours. In 24 hours, maybe I can spend 1 hour at best. That's also a luxury. At best, 1 hour doing devotional activities. But then, rest of the time, it looks like it is almost impossible for me. I don't know how to apply your prescription of constant remembrance. And you say I need to be contemplating on you all the time. Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. How is it possible? How do I do this? Only you, hey Krishna, you only can help me apply your own teaching. Katam vidyam aham yogim swam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardhana bhuyaha kathya triptirhi shrinvato nasti me pratam vistarena atmano yogam vistarena. I want you to explain to me in detail. Atmano yogam vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardhana. Two things Arjuna is asking for: yoga, vibhuti. Please explain to me your yoga. Please explain to me your vibhuti, which will help me to constantly contemplate. Remember, vistarena atmano yoga bhuya kathya triptirhi. You have taught me, you have been talking to me about this, about your yoga and your vibhuti. But the more I listen, the more I want. The more I want, because it's so very nectarine. Knowing Krishna is so very nectarine. Knowing about Krishna is nectarine. Knowing Krishna is even more nectarine. The more I listen from you, the more I experience your glories, the more I want. And therefore, you alone, please, this is the 11th question that Arjuna has. Explain to me how I can constantly remember you. Give me a detail on your vibhuti and your yoga. Now, let's look at what these two mean. Yoga and vibhuti. There are several meanings. But in this context, yoga, yuchyate iti yoga. Here, Arjuna wants to know the yoga of Krishna. All his kalyana gunas that are always united with him. Because it is knowing his kalyana gunas. It is only through gunanubhava that we can constantly stay connected with him. Only when we constantly reflect on his gunas. So therefore, I want to know more and more about your kalyana gunas, which are inexhaustible. The more I know your kalyana gunas, which are nectarine, the more I want to listen. Yoga, vibhuti. Vibhuti. Vibhutir, bhutibhir aishwaryam. Vibhuti stands for Bhagavan's Aishwaryam. Aishwarya is property. Aishwarya is lordship. Vibhuti stands for, if we have to give a definition for Vibhuti, Niyamana Viseshana is Vibhuti. Viseshana means property. Viseshana means qualities. Viseshana means opulences. Viseshana means glories. Viseshana means manifestations. All of this, Niyamana Viseshana, all which are controlled, which are under your control. The glories, the qualities, the properties, the opulences, which are under your control. So which means Bhagavan is Vibhu, everything else is Vibhuti. Because everything else is controlled by him. His glories are under his control. His properties are under his control. His Aishwarya, his wealth is under his control. Everything that we can think of other than him fall under the category of Vibhuti. Now, by his pervasion as Vibhu, everything becomes his Vibhuti. So therefore, explain to me in detail about your Vibhuti and your yoga so that I can start practicing constant remembrance. So 11th question of Arjuna is asking for ways and means of constantly remembering Krishna. The 10th chapter, therefore, is so very practical and profound, because it contains practical ways of how to remember. Krishna gives tips of how to constantly remember him through a list of vibhutis. Also, he also in the process gives the very essence. He gives the very essence of the relationship between him and every other entity. The relationship between him and each and every one of us. It seems there was this hunter who had a hunting dog, and which had some very special skills. So he wanted to show off the skills of this dog to his neighbor. So he requested his neighbor to go along with him on a hunting trip. So next day, along with his neighbor and his hunting dog, this hunter went to the forest and sat on the bank of a lake, and they started hunting ducks. So this hunter promptly took his rifle and he shot a duck. The duck fell in the water, and immediately the hunting dog started walking over the water. He went, fetched the duck, and came back. So the man looked at the neighbor looked at the man. There was a silence, nothing happened. He once again took his rifle, took a shot another duck. The duck fell, the dog walked all over the water, fetched the duck, and came back. This man once again promptly looked at the neighbor. No reaction from the neighbor. This process went on 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 ducks. After a while, he was a little impatient. He looked at the neighbor and then said, "Do you see something strange, something different here happening?" The neighbor was scratching and then casually said, yes, now that you ask, I see something very strange here. Finally, some reaction. What do you see? What is strange? You know what? I found one thing. It looks like your dog cannot swim. This dog has been walking on the water all along, but what the neighbor notices is not the wonder of this dog walking on the water, what is extraordinary, but he watches something for ordinary. He wants to see the ordinary, and in the process, he misses the extraordinary. We all see the world with our own eyes, not as it is. And in that process, looking for the ordinary, we miss the extraordinary. And that sense of wonder in us, that sense of wonder completely goes missing. When we are like these little kids, we are always in a sense of wonder and awe. That's the reason why we are taught nursery rhymes. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So we keep saying, how I wonder, how I wonder. That wondering is there for possibly 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. That's it. After that, life becomes very routine, very, very, very routine with no wonder whatsoever. There is no wonder, there is no bhakti. If we are not in awe of Krishna, we can never love Krishna. And Krishna is very clear here, Arjuna, by knowing my vibhutis, a sense of wonder will be kindled in you. When we look at this world, and through this world, if we can connect with the world maker, the world is an arena to kindle a sense of awe and wonder in us. That's the purpose of this world, not to get lost. The point of this world is to point us to Krishna. And that's the point we miss. So, Krishna, therefore, in response to Arjuna's question, Krishna, hey Arjuna, you want to know my yoga and my vibhuti? Let me simplify and summarize it for you. One of the most profound declarations of Krishna in the Gita, which establishes the relationship between him and each and every one of us. Ahamatma gudhakesha sarvabhutashaya stitah ahamadischa madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. Hey Arjuna, ahamatma gudhake, hey Gudhakesha. Gudhakesha, Arjuna, the one who has conquered sleep. Basically here, Arjuna is being asked to be awake, like basically praising him. So that's the only way sometimes to get attention. Arjuna is no doubt a Gudhakesha, but sometimes a little bit of a praise is also needed to get the attention of the listener. Hey Gudhakesha, listen to the most fundamental truth, the relationship between you and me, the relationship between Krishna and every other entity, the relationship between Krishna and this universe. Ahamatma gudhakesha samabhutashaya stitaha. This entire universe is my sharira. I am the shariri. This is the most important relationship to be understood. Krishna, Bhagavan, the Parabrahman, the Paramatma is the shariri. Every other entity is sharira. Ahamadikcha madhyamcha bhutanam anta eva cha. So this is the summary of all his Kalyana Gunas. He being the threefold cause. All the Kalyana Gunas fall into this category. He being the cause, threefold cause of everything, of creation, sustenance and destruction. So Arjuna wanted to know his Kalyana Gunas and his Vibhuti. So Krishna summarizes that. And I am the Vibhu, hey Arjuna, you are my Vibhuti. Everything that you see in this world is my Vibhuti. Now, to Arjuna's question, staying in this world, how do I constantly remember you? By engaging with the world, how can I remember Krishna? When I am working, when I am cooking, when I am talking, when I am speaking, when I am going around in the world, in Tamil, Bhagavan is called Thirumal. Thirumal. Now, jokingly it is said, when we are in the shopping mall, can we remember Thirumal? The question is, wherever we are, how do I remember Krishna? How is it possible? This is where Krishna gives the answer. He says, connect the world with the world maker. When you look at a painting, see the painter in the painting. Everything in this world reflects a spark of his glories. Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam srimadurjitamevava tattadevavagachatvam mama tejamsa sambhavam. Krishna says, yad yad vibhutimat sattvam. Whatever that exists, whatever there is, everything is my vibhuti. Everything is born out of a tiny fragment of my power. Everything is a spark. Everything is born. Everything is a spark that is born out of my limitless effulgence. So therefore, when I see something attractive in this world, I need to necessarily then understand that attraction belongs not to that object, but it is just a reflection of, it's a spark of the all attractiveness of Krishna. Anything that I see beautiful in this world is only manifesting a small infinitesimal part, a tiny weeny part of the beauty or limitless beauty of Krishna. So Krishna then, by listing all his vibhutis, is basically telling us, how can we see the world maker in his world? How can we see the painter in his painting? How do we stay connected with him? When we look at this whole world, the world is filled with wonders. And when we are in awe of this world, we will be in awe of the world maker. Connect everything material with Krishna. then automatically our consciousness is directed to Krishna. Knowing that if anything beautiful, anything glorious, if I see something extraordinary happening, that is Krishna's vibhuti. When I see excellence, when I see power, everything is a manifestation of a tiny, weeny spark of Krishna's effulgence, Krishna's glories. Yat yat vibhutimat sattvam Srimad Urjitamevava Tattadevava Gachatvam Mama Teja Amsha Sambhavam. Teja Amsha Sambhavam. Everything is born out of Amsha, small parts. So therefore, when we look at the parts, we should get directed towards the whole. When we look at the spark, why settle for the spark when the fire is available? Why settle for the part when the whole is available? Why settle for less when limitless is available? Krishna lists out a whole list of vibhutis, various categories in says. In every category, everything that exhibits extraordinary glory, everything that exhibits power, everything that exhibits beauty, know that it is my manifestation. It is my opulence, my glory. It is limitless. So in the process of thus looking for Krishna's presence in everything, and by recognizing the unseen hand of Krishna, His grace operating all the time, when we stay in wonder of His creation, we will stay connected with the Creator. So thus, through Vibhuti Yoga, Krishna presents a very practical framework as to how we can always stay connected with Him, wherever we are. Whenever we see anything good, we immediately connect it with Krishna. Anything beautiful, connect it with Krishna. Right from what we see, what we listen, what we taste. We only keep testing Krishna. Krishna says, start tasting me. Stop testing me. We keep testing Him all the time. No, we are very, very good in this. We will give Him a test. Say, Krishna, tomorrow I'll see whether you will pass or fail. Get me out of this difficulty. I will tell you whether you will get 35 or 100. Most often we'll only give Him less than 50 only. Because we think, the problems are not resolved. We think. Because we always come to conclusion based on our limited understanding of whatever we are going through. Whatever happens, only in due course, we realize that whatever happens for good. Krishna says, as long as we keep testing Him, thinking that He fails, in reality we are failing. Stop testing Him, start tasting Him. Krishna Rasa is found everywhere. When that Krishna is kindled in us, we seek Krishna in everything we do. Whether we are standing right in front of Him, or we are doing anything at work, or in anywhere we are, wherever we are, there is always a scope to stay connected with Him. There can be no reason. After Vibhuti Yoga, we have no excuse. After the 10th chapter of the Gita, we are already 17 chapters, so therefore we have no excuse. After the 10th chapter, once Krishna gives us practical tips of staying connected with Him, how to constantly remember Him, wherever we are, while driving, while walking, while eating, while talking, except sound sleep. Even there, we are united with Him. So, 24 hours, there is possibility. And Krishna is assuring that. And through Vibhuti Yoga, we learn that simple technique, a technique where we can strengthen our bhakti, where bhakti can sprout, grow, and completely consume us. And when we are consumed by bhakti, when we are infused by bhakti, then we no longer seek purpose in the pursuit of pleasure. We begin to experience pleasure in the pursuit of purpose. Thus, Arjuna's 11th question brings us a very important answer. So, paying our gratitude to Arjuna, let us reflect on Krishna's vibhutis. A whole number of vibhutis Krishna has listed in this chapter. We spent a lot of time on Vibhuti Yoga, understanding each and every Vibhuti. I encourage those of you who missed Vibhuti Yoga to go back and listen to those recordings. Every Vibhuti teaches us a very important lesson. So let's keep reflecting on Bhagavan's Vibhuti and his Kalyana Gunas so that Bhakti can be strengthened in us. Saram Krishna Arpanamastu.